Year after year, cities clog up within the first few days of monsoon. Year after year, Mumbaikars hope that the city by the sea wouldn't flood. Instead, year after year, people in Mumbai and other cities across India continue to wade through chest-deep water, avoiding potholes and floating gas cylinders. Buildings collapse, cars float, public toilet overflows, and public transport grinds to a painful halt. And then begins the blame game. So nothing changes. Outside these cities, the situation is worse. Year after year, the river swells, submerging a lone bridge here, flooding fields there, and wreaking a quiet havoc. As half the country grapples with an intense water scarcity, the other half has started slowly sinking under the wrath of intense rain, with a clogged infrastructure bogging it down further. As India and the world experiences more extreme weather events, we examine how climate disruption and climate change influences floods, heat waves and droughts. How cyclones, Vayu and Poni fit into the bigger picture. What is the common thread between 2019's spate of floods, 2018's Kerala floods and 2017's Northeast flash floods? What links a cloudburst in Uttarakhand with a cyclone in the Bay of Bengal? The Indian Meteorological Department claimed 2018 alone saw over 1,400 people die due to extreme weather events. What does 2019 have in store? Is this climate change?
India, inundated at one end, flooded on the other, completely parched. Well, the monsoons this time arrived late, but as it progressed through the country, within the first few showers, both urban and rural areas along its path were inundated, flooded. And the usual cycle began. Intense heavy rain in a very short period of time caught the civic authorities unprepared once again, leaving the public to face the deluge once again.
In the first week of July, when monsoon clouds arrived in the hill state of Himachal Pradesh, one of the first news of landslides came from near Pando Dam in the Mandi district. It led to the Mandi-Kulu highway being blocked. Though life was reported, the highway closure led to a large number of vehicles being stranded. In neighbouring Uttarakhand, the second week of July saw heavy rains lash many parts of Kumaon region. The Kali and Gori rivers in Pithoragarh district were in spate, flowing just a few meters above the danger level. River Ganga too has been flowing just about 3 meters beneath the danger mark. The Met Department has issued an orange alert for the state till July 13th, predicting heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places in 9 districts. The alert has been issued for Nainital, Champawat, Udham Singh Nagar, Pithoragarh, Chamoli, Tehri, Pauri, Dehradun and Haridwar districts. According to Uttarakhand's Emergency Operations Centre, due to heavy rainfall, 14 rural roads in the state across districts are blocked. Just a single day's rain in the Champawat region led to NH9 being blocked, leaving travellers stranded. In the foothills, Haldwani witnessed heavy waterlogging. Locals have blamed the lackadaisical attitude of civic authorities for the situation. In Uttar Pradesh, monsoon clouds brought respite from the spiraling heat wave, but it also brought in another extreme weather event, flash floods and waterlogging. The intensity of rains is expected to be more over the eastern and central parts. Places like Gorakhpur, Bharuch, Lucknow, Bareilly, Kanpur, Sultanpur, Varanasi, Prayagraj and Fursatganj expected to be at higher risk of flooding after the rains. In Barabanki, River Ghagra is in spate, flooding several fields near the river bank. Bihar too faced a similar fate after recording a rain deficiency of around 40% between June and the first week of July. It is now raining cats and dogs. Just 3 days of incessant rainfall brought a flood of miseries along. The scene in Patna's Nalanda Medical College and Hospital seems tragicomic. Relatives of patients posed with fishes in a palmful of water because the ward where their kin were being treated was inundated. Hospital authorities worked overtime to drain out water from the low-lying areas of the hospital. A similar image emerged from the government hospital of Hajipur, a CCU filled with water. Medicines and other supplies being carried on stretchers as patients and their relatives waded through the water-inundated corridors of the hospital. Meanwhile, weathermen have predicted flood-like situation in several districts in North Bihar along the Indo-Nepal border due to heavy rains in the region in the coming days. Moving east, the flood situation in Assam. State officials say over 70,000 people from 145 villages across 8 districts of the state are affected. The 8 districts affected by floods in Assam are Dhemaji, Lakhimpur, Bishwanath, Golaghat, Jorhat, Dibrugarh, Chirang and Borpeta. Out of these districts, Dhemaji is the worst affected, where over 22,000 people are stranded. The Met Department has warned that flood situation could worsen with heavy rainfall across the northeast over the next 5 days. According to the Assam State Disaster Management Authority, about 3,435 hectares of agricultural land has been destroyed. In Lakhimpur, floodwaters have washed away a bamboo bridge. The water level of Brahmaputra and several other rivers is flowing above the danger level mark in several districts. Further east, in Arunachal Pradesh's West Kameng district, at least 200 people have been evacuated following flash floods after a cloudburst in the area. In neighbouring Meghalaya, the situation was quite similar. Regions witnessed waterlogging, flash floods and landslides. Residents in various regions of the state woke up to water seeping into their homes. Rivers are flowing near the danger mark and agricultural fields stand flooded. Despite being on the list of states which were water deficit, some areas in Madhya Pradesh like Ratlam, Shivpur, Ujjain, Bhopal and Morena might witness flood-like conditions due to monsoon rains. While 1/3 of the state has received less rainfall in this monsoon, cyclonic circulation is causing heavy rainfall and thunder shower over the northern region of Madhya Pradesh. Guna is one such district that has reported heavy rainfall. Life here has come to a halt and continuous rainfall over days has flooded low-lying areas next to the river Parbati. Bridges have submerged, rail lines lie unused, full of debris. While highways running through Guna leading to Rajasthan stay submerged underwater. An angry, rain-swollen river flows through Sagar in Madhya Pradesh, leading to people being stranded on one side of the river, waiting to attempt a crossing. What once was a bridge is now barely visible. In neighboring Rajasthan's Ajmer district, the visuals seem out of an apocalyptic movie. Within 2 rains, the streets of Rajasthan's spiritual city witnessed this scene. Gas cylinders bobbing around in streets flooded with rainwater, while gushing water flowed through narrow streetways. Moving on to Gujarat, a couple of areas in southern Gujarat are facing flood-like situation following heavy rainfall. In the first week of July itself, Valsad district received more than 357 millimeters of rain. Waterlogging on every street, public transport missing, people forced to wade through knee-deep water. Like every year, this year too, the life in country's financial capital Mumbai came to a grinding halt under a monsoon battery. With unusually severe rainfall over the past few weeks, roads resemble rivers. Train lines and vehicles lay submerged, and a long trail of destruction was left behind. Over 15 people died after a wall collapsed, burying scores in Malad. The city recorded its heaviest rainfall in 10 years. Even the main runway at Mumbai airport had to be shut, leading to flight disruptions. Flights operated from the secondary runway, leading to the severe disruption.
On the 9th July, the United Nations condemned the world's governments in a report admonishing them for not doing enough to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Target, especially in terms of countering climate change. In India, experts say annual cycle of drought and flood predicts a dangerous closed loop of extreme weather events. On that will affect people across the country, affecting the economy and eventually the GDP. Next up, we take a look at this emerging pattern.
But is there anything unusual about such weather events? Droughts, heat waves, storms, cyclones and floods. None of these are uncommon to India. Data from the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology shows that from 1871 till 2015, India had 26 major drought years and 19 major flood years. Odisha has witnessed cyclones for centuries. The hill states go through a periodic cycle of flash floods. Poorly managed and overburdened urban infrastructure are more likely to result in cities overflowing when it rains than not. Commonplace. This is India's weather. This has happened for centuries. Then what's different?
The extreme weather events that we see today are not usual. Frankly, they are unusual. The frequency and intensity of extreme weather events that we have experienced for the past couple of years, maybe for about 5 to 6 years, is unprecedented, both in terms of numbers, as I said, as well as in terms of intensity. And therefore, there is a clear signal of climate crisis that we are witnessing. If you look at last 120 years data, you will clearly see that the subcontinent's temperature has increased by about 2 degrees in most of the seasons compared to 1901 to 1930 average, which is what scientifically one should compare temperature differences to look at the long-term trend.
Experts warn of how the heat waves, droughts will become worse, occur more frequently and last longer. Despite the use of cutting-edge weather prediction technology, cyclones and rainfall are becoming more and more unpredictable. Flash floods and cloudbursts happen more frequently with devastating impact on human life and asset because of a lethal combination of rising temperatures and aggressive urbanization in eco-sensitive areas.
We are beginning to see the beginnings of climate change. Now, what does climate change mean in the context of India is that you will get more variable rain, you will get more rain, but in fewer number of rainy days. So the extreme rain that you saw in Mumbai this last few days is what you will get more in the future, which means that unless you learn how to harvest the rain, hold it, capture the rain, and use it in the dry periods, you will get into a situation where you have got drought at the time of flood, flood at the time of drought.
Imagine Mumbai got so much rain and still it has drought and it has flood. So we are in a new climate crisis era, and that adaptation means proactive, governance and a different model of governance rather than a Gadkari model of governance, which is only about the speed at which we are building the roads is what is a success story. And success story of Javadekar is not about environment protection, but is about environmental clearance. He says that I'm the best environment minister because I give clearance to cut forest and to mining projects and to other river linking projects faster than any other minister in the history of our country. So when your focus is on cement and industry and clearance, you have signed up for this crisis.
All the scientific data and information and projections that we have tell us that the extreme weather events are going to increase, whether it is heat wave or drought or floods or uneven monsoon. These are going to increase significantly, and we are already affected and we are going to get affected more. So climate change is going to affect everyone. It is going to affect businesses, it is going to affect agriculture, it is going to make poor poorer. So all the growth and development that we are doing right now to bring poor out of poverty is going to get nullified if we do not deal with climate change.
Now, India isn't the only country dealing with the weather. Rain has been wreaking havoc around the world. Here are just a handful of stories from countries dealing with some of the worst floods in recent times.
Sudden torrential rain in the northern Spanish region of Navarra led to a river bursting from its banks. A man was found dead after his car was swept away by the torrent of water. Footage of toppled cars in the streets of Tofalo and Puyo went viral online as the raging Sidakos River, which surged from 11 centimeters to over 4 meters in a few hours, spilled onto the streets and swept away anything that lay in its path.
En cuestión de minutos empezó a crecer el río y bueno, no nos dio tiempo ni de sacar nada.
The storms in Navarra caught the regional government by surprise, with 4 times as much rain falling than originally forecast and coming just a week after a Europe-wide heat wave that caused 2 deaths in Spain. The regional government is keeping a watch on the situation as heavy rains continue and surging water smashed through major highways, dragging cars, tree branches and debris in its wake. In the east, China is on a mission to save and evacuate more than 25,000 citizens in flood hazard areas since entering this year's flood season.
对江西、广西、湖南等洪涝灾情比较集中的这些区域呢，我们予以了重点关注，实时掌握和研判洪涝灾情的发展趋势。
In total, 1.63 million people in 7 provinces and regions have so far been impacted by floods in China this year. Firefighters at provinces hit hard by floods carried out 1,691 search and rescue tasks. East China, Hunan in central China, and Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region in southern China are among the worst hit provinces and regions since the start of the flood season. The weather meanwhile continues unabated as heavy rains are expected in many parts of China, including southwest, south, central, northeast and east China. 5 people have been killed and 2 are missing following severe floods in southern Siberia in Russia. Over 1,160 people were evacuated to safety by Russian emergency services. These floods were caused by a cyclone which added rain torrents to local rivers. Russian President Vladimir Putin visited the disaster area post the G20 summit in Osaka.
Мы с вами прекрасно понимаем, знаем ситуацию в сибирских регионах. Здесь, в том числе, лето очень короткое, зима наступает быстро, а паводок-то еще не закончился, вода не сошла. Когда строить будем? Времени очень мало. Нужно сделать все, чтобы люди не оказались в палатках, когда наступит холода. Ну и вообще предусмотреть все возможные варианты событий.
800 million rubles worth of damage was caused to local roads, and agricultural losses were estimated to be 300 million rubles during this flood. And although the weather situation has improved, meteorologists have estimated a further flood surge in the coming days. Meanwhile, in America, the National Weather Service issued a flash flood emergency in the DC metropolitan area as roads and yards flooded and a rush of water poured through the ceiling of the Virginia Square metro station in Arlington. The sudden flood has destroyed property, but there are no reports of loss of life.
Shifting weather patterns, heat waves, rising sea levels, unprecedented intense rain, catastrophic flooding. The impact of climate change is global. It has resulted in the loss of life, property, and losses in economy. Across the world, more and more people are asking for sustenance and to reduce the carbon footprint, asking their governments to act up now. Here's the report from Europe.
Earlier this week, environmental activists in Zurich, Switzerland, chained themselves together to prevent being evicted as they protested against Credit Suisse to pressure Swiss banks into halting the financing of fossil fuels. Clad in white suits and face masks, protesters carried placards displaying slogans like "Fossil banks too big to stay." They were arrested by the police. The protest was initiated by groups calling for civil disobedience to draw attention to activities that accelerate climate change. Heat waves, severe flooding and wildfires, as well as the United Nations urging action to halt rising temperatures, have spurred activists across Europe and elsewhere this year to risk arrest by joining protests to persuade governments and companies to do more to curb fossil fuel use.
To increase the awareness that this has to stop, we have the Paris Agreement in place, and there hasn't been any steps that we can see towards reducing the investments in this regard, slightly, but nothing that really would matter. So this is why we are here and really demand stop investing in fossil fuels immediately.
In France, the first week of July saw hundreds of environmental activists protest outside Amazon's headquarters in Paris. Those taking part in the demonstration said they were angered by a report issued last week that showed France was falling behind on its commitments to reduce CO2 emissions and combat climate change. They wanted the online behemoth to cancel its plans for expansion in 2020. In UK, climate change protesters marched into 5 major oil companies' London headquarters on the 2nd of July, calling on them to stop drilling and to follow the Paris Climate Change Accords.
We would rather go straight to fossil fuel companies and say, you know what, don't explore anymore. You're not sticking to the Paris Agreement, no matter how much you greenwash it.
At the end of June, the EU headquarters at Brussels saw demonstrators gather to demand climate action by European Union leaders. At a summit on June 20th, leaders did not set a goal for the EU to be carbon neutral by 2050. after resistance from Poland, the Czech Republic and Hungary.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on In Depth, but we do hope that the story stays with you, that you think about. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.